Each of these political factions are pulling in different directions, and precisely ODM and part of Jubilee that is allied to Deputy President William Ruto. So we like to put all that into perspective. This aside from the other stories making your headlines on a Monday called Monday morning. So keep it here for the next 2 hours. You are here with me, and we'll be joined by Odhiambo Ramogi later on or in a few minutes, and Setabao Olekanchori, who is the lawyer. They're the ones who will try and put this conversation to perspective. But first, let's remind you of the stories that made your headlines yesterday, and of course some of them we're following up for you today. And we begin with that tragic accident where 4 people were killed and one was injured after lightning struck an abandoned semi-permanent house in Piav, that's in Njoro, Nakuru, on Saturday. Residents claim the victims were part of a group of people on a drinking spree. The residents' father say that the group of people have been frequenting the abandoned house to drink and shelter from the rain. The injured were rushed to the Nakuru County Hospital, while the bodies of the deceased have been taken to the same mortuary.
Radi ikatokea, tukasikia watu wanegongo, kwani tukakuta kama waneaga kwa muda masaa kaa saa 11:30. Sasa tukakuja askari wakuja wakawachukua. Tunaweza tusaidia nazo ya kukinga ajali kama hiyo. Tunaweza omba wewe usaidizi watusaidie nayo.
And a couple in Murang'a have been arrested over claims that they killed a 2-year-old girl in order to get married. Residents of Kabui village have been enraged by the incident after the girl's body was found in a nearby river. Another young victim, a 9-year-old boy, has also been found murdered in a thicket in Kakamega.
The body of 2-year-old sibling Masita was found in River Mathioya at Kabui village in Murang'a. Her parents, Stephen Kamau and Mildred Imali, have been arrested in connection to her death. The young parents allegedly killed the baby before dumping her body in the river.
Hao wasichana wadogo waache kuua watoto. Kama mtoto amekuchokesa, pelekea mama yake. Kama umeshindwa kupelekea mama yako, peleka mtoto kwa children home.
Masita went missing last Thursday, and her parents did not report her disappearance to authorities or even their neighbors in Kabui village.
Ni watu wao wanawasiliana, waongee kinyumbani, na wakisidwa wapige ripoti kwa ofisi yetu, ama waende kwa kanisa, ama kwa mzee wa kijiji.
Neighbors claim that this is not the first time Mildred has tried to kill her daughter. Masita had once been admitted at Murang'a Hospital after the mother allegedly poisoned her. And in Shihambi village, Kakamega, the body of 9-year-old Ishmael Shukri was found in a thicket. Shukri was kidnapped early Saturday as he went to the mosque. The kidnappers then called his parents demanding a 50,000 shilling ransom.
Kitendo ingine kama hii kifanyika, wananchi tutachukua sheria mkononi. Na tukichukua sheria mkononi, serikali isikuje kutulaumu.
Shukri's body was found in Shitungu in Ikonyero in Lurambi constituency. He had deep cuts in the neck. 6 people aged 16 and 18 who reportedly received the ransom have been arrested. Meanwhile, residents of Huruma Estate, Nairobi, woke up to the discovery of a woman's body. Relatives and neighbors say she has been missing for 1 week. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Let's take you to Samburu now, where police have yesterday arrested a county official and recovered money said to have been stashed in the car he was driving. The suspect was arrested after he failed to account for the 1,099,000 shillings. According to a police report filed on the incident, the suspect was driving the car registered to the Samburu County government. The 39-year-old is believed to be an employee of the Samburu County government tied to the Social Service Department. It comes at a time when Samburu Governor Moses Lelenkulal is facing charges of corruption involving an 84 million shilling fuel supply scandal in the county. Right, let's take you to what we're discussing this morning. And politicians allied to Deputy President William Ruto believed the directive to recall the 1,000 shilling notes by the 1st of October is targeted at President Kenyatta's deputy. The MPs who accompanied Ruto to a funds drive in Kiambu daringly welcomed the directive, declaring that the 4-month period is too long and should be effected immediately. NTV's political affairs reporter Ken Mijungu with the details.
The directive by the Central Bank of Kenya to withdraw the 1,000 shilling notes from circulation from October 1st, 2019 and replace them with new ones seems to have already taken a political angle, with MPs allied to Deputy President William Ruto already reading malice.
Wewe utatoa shilingi milioni 1 ya CDF na mimi nitatoa milioni 2. Basi maliza.
At a church funds drive in Kahawa Wendani early Sunday, 16 MPs who accompanied the DP read from the same script, questioning the 4-month window, arguing it should have been shorter.
Unasikia kuna wengine wameingiza siasa. Wanadhani tuko na magunia ya pesa kule nyumbani. Ile miezi 4 ambaye president amesema hata inaweza songeshwa ikuwe mwezi 1 au miezi 2. Ndio tukikuja kanisa tena biaza miezi 2 tupeane pesa, hakuna Kenya watatuambia.
Kuna watu wengi wamekuwa wakisema ati Dede Nyoro ako na pesa mingi sana na magunia kwake nyumbani. Sasa mimi nasema hata hii muda ipunguzwe pia, ikuwe kama siku 2.
Financial year ya serikali huanza July 1st. Kama ingewezekana hiyo directive Mheshimiwa Rais aseme ianze July tarehe 1.
They welcomed the move to change and withdraw the note and even congratulated President Uhuru Kenyatta for making that decision. The MPs who spoke as the DP listened and shook their hands as each left the podium read malice into the withdrawal of the currency, some insinuating the DP and those allied to him are the intended target of the directive.
Kama ingetoka jana, hiyo pesa ndio leo tungetumia hapa kwa mchango. Kwa sababu tunataka hiyo pesa. Hiyo pesa nyingine tulikuwa tunabeba hata kwa mchango inakuwa kubwa sana. Tunataka hii ikuwe ndogo ndio tukibeba, badala ya tutoe mchango milioni 1, tukue tunatoa milioni 5 na milioni 10. Kwa sababu itakuwa inatoshea na tutabeba. Sasa gunia zikuwe mingi.
In his speech on Saturday during the Madaraka Day celebrations in Narok, CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge said the Kenyan currency had been used for illicit trade for far too long.
We have seen the emergence of some counterfeits. These are grave concerns that would jeopardize proper transactions and the conduct of commerce in our currency.
Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
All right, we're coming back to more stories relating to the recall or demonetization. But first, let's talk about something that happened in Murang'a. And a couple in Murang'a were arrested over claims that they killed a 2-year-old girl in order to get married. And obviously, the residents of Kaboi village were enraged by that incident after the girl's body was found in a nearby river. Martin Maura now joins us to discuss this with me. Martin, and we understand that this couple is being taken to court this morning.
Yes, good morning, Ken. Chilly actually and sad morning here from County 021. Yes, a couple was arrested over the weekend for the murder of their 2-year-old daughter. The couple, as you have said, yes, they are said to have conspired together to kill. Actually, it happened on Thursday, and the girl, the mother to the girl, had gone to the river to fetch water, but she came back without the baby girl, and it said that she did not even bother to report. And unfortunately or fortunately, one of the village elders heard that the baby was missing and report to the chief's office, and the two were summoned at the chief's office, and after interrogation, it is that the woman confessed of what they had conspired to do. Now, Ken, we were here at Murang'a Local, where they have been brought by the police. The police are here just to ask for 14 more days to arrest them so that they can interrogate them more and get deeper details of what might have led to the killing of the young girl. Ken, these cases are becoming very rampant, but we are just here following up just to know what is happening in the.
Right, we apologize for the terrible connection that we have there with Martin, but he's explained to us about the couple in Murang'a who were arrested over the weekend over claims that they killed their 2-year-old daughter in order to get married. All right, this morning we're discussing about the currency recall, or what we like to call demonetization. So we'll be putting that in perspective. Already have an advocate in studio, Setabawa Lekansori, who will be helping us with that discussion. We're waiting for Odhiambo Ramogi, an economist, to join us. But as we wait for them, let's talk about what has been said over this. And Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi has asked the CBK not to extend the deadline for the submission of the old notes. Mudavadi has also warned Kenyans against being used to launder money following the introduction of the new currency. He spoke even as a section of ODM leaders asked the CBK to reconsider the use of the statue bearing the image of the founding president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta.
I would also urge that the central bank must be very vigilant, or the financial managers must be very vigilant, because people are going to try and rush to engage in cash transactions. Be very careful. He might come and say, I want to buy your car for cash. I might want to buy your land for cash. He's transferring his problem to you.
Katiba ya Kenya imesema hakuna kuweka sura ya binadamu, awe ni sura ya binadamu mwana Kenya ama kutoka nchi fulani, ama sura ya sanamu ya binadamu iziweke kwa fedha. Lakini zile fedha ambazo zilitolewa rasmi jana na rais zina picha ya hayati Mzee Jomo Kenyatta.
Those notes must be recalled and done afresh. If they want to put KICC, and it is iconic, we have no problem with it. But look for the side where there is no face of a human being.
Right, it seems the opposition is back, especially when it comes to the images appearing on the new notes. That's about the only time I've had in, I don't know, what period of ODM criticizing something that is happening in government. But opinion is still divided over the move by the Central Bank of Kenya to demonetize 1,000 shilling note in the next 4 months. While some experts see the move as a sure way of stopping illicit accumulation of wealth, others say the move is likely to have a very limited impact, as the targeted individuals may move their ill-gotten wealth to other forms of property and other currency. NTV's Brenda Wanga explains.
All persons have until October 1, 2019 to exchange those notes, after which the older 1,000 shillings banknotes will cease to be legal tender.
The shockwaves caused by the announcement during Madaraka Day celebrations continue to reverberate across the country, but experts say the real impact of the declaration will begin to be felt in the coming days.
There will be a rush towards the heavy consumption. And indeed, this now will spur growth of the Kenyan economy through consumption, which is also very dangerous. Many of these people will rush into consuming ravishly, and this, in a way, will lead to a case in question where this money will be chasing very few goods and services within the economy, and that ultimately will push up the prices.
That rush informed by the knowledge that in just 120 days, the old 1,000 shilling notes will cease to be legal tender, rendering them useless. It is a move that the government hopes will be the silver bullet in the fight against graft and the campaign to stop the flow of illicit money. But not all economists agree.
The idea is to make sure that you put pressure on those people who hold illegal reserves of 100,000 shillings, over 1,000 shillings, Kenya shillings note, by escalating its expiry. And if you escalate its expiry, you'll shrink the ability. Some of them will find themselves with money that they cannot distribute or bring back into the legal system, and therefore they will lose that value. It's interesting in theory, but it hasn't been demonstrated in practice, and my fear is that it probably will not be successful here too.
The decision to target the 1,000 shilling note also very deliberate.
A majority of those who have hoarded money in their houses or bankers have opted to use a 1,000 shilling note because it's not, in total, the total summation, it will not be in bulky. the 1,000 shilling note is preferred with easy storage.
Kenya is going down a well-beaten road. Several countries across the globe have employed similar methods of tackling graft with varied levels of success. The latest country to go this route, India, and Kenya has lessons to learn from this particular case.
People who launder this kind of money in huge forms have political power and they are connected to the financial system. So whether they filtered it in through the banks or whether they filtered it in through their buying other property, in India they actually went in and started buying gold because gold is big in India. And so they'll be able to transfer it from one form of property to the other.
But while this move is targeted at those holding large sums of money in their homes, it is also likely to impact even the common man.
All the chamas where the members distribute money in cash, all those table bankers and everything else, all of them would have to bring it, and they have up to, if it is 1,000.
While the jury is still out on the effectiveness of the move, at least on the anti-graft platform, there are those who are convinced that the stringent Financial and Banking Act requirements will make it difficult to move large and accounted for sums of money from the infamous home vaults to the formal banking systems. Besides that, they insist that it will also help the government nab tax defaulters. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Right, as I mentioned this morning, we are discussing about the move to mop out all the 1,000 shillings notes by 1st of October from circulation and replace them with a new generation notes. So we'll be talking about that. But before then, Bernard Ojwang joins us from Sindo. That, I think, is in Homa Bay County and not Migori County, where we talk about fish farming this morning. Bernard, good morning. There's a move to train more fishermen and more villages in the county of Homa Bay in the current fishing methods. Instead of just fish farming in fish ponds, they are moving to do the cages in the lake. All right, I'm told that we can't get Bernard, but basically what Bernard comes to talk about is cage fish farming, which is non-traditional. And this is happening in the lakes. What they're doing is creating cages within the lakes, the natural environment of fish, and ensuring that you have a bumper harvest. Now, Bernard joins us. Bernard, good morning. Explain to us the concept behind cage fish farming in the natural environment.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. Just as you have said, we are here in Sindo, Homa Bay County. What's going on here? As you can see behind me, these are some of the women, fishmongers, and also fishermen who used to be here trading along Lake Victoria. They have now decided at least to get skills here at a Victory Farm on how to do cage fishing. Remember, it has been said that we've been seeing cases where women are being lured so as for sex for fish, so as relatives to trade with their bodies so that they can get fish. And also we've been seeing cases whereby fishermen are doing their fishing using illegal nets. And also what is happening here, these women and men are being trained on how to do cage fishing and also production on fish fingerlings. And the main vision here is at least to promote the blue economy. Remember late last year when during the Blue Economy Conference that was held in Nairobi, it was realized fishing was realized to be one of the sectors that will drive the realization of the blue economy in the country. And also Homa Bay County government also supported this, saying urging fishermen at least to venture fully into fish farming. And also I'm just going to talk to some of the fishermen and also fishmongers here who are here being trained. Just come here. You are here, huko hapa mnafunzwa kufanya vile mnaweza fanya kuza samaki using fish caging.
Yes, hapa tunafanya kazi vizuri ya cage fish. Tumeshajifunza namna ya kufanya cage. Kwa kuwa hapa unaweza kuona kama tumekuja na tunajifunza na tumeshajifunziwa na cage fish. Tumependa kwa kuwa hiyo cage fish inapata samaki daily. Hata ukitaka kurangua unarangua tu bila kuchelewa.
Hali ilikuwa namna gani hapo awali? Tunasikia mambo na sex for fish.
fish hapa samani tulikuwa tunafanyaga huko tunarangua huko fish kwa huko fishmongers, lakini ilikuwa kazi ngumu. Saa nyingine ukienda hati mvua ilinyesha hakuna fish, unachelewa kufanya kazi. Na hii ni continuously inaenda tu bila kukosa fish, unaenda tu kabisa.
Well, thank you. I'll speak to join me here for the last interview. You are here. You are training these people on how to do cage fishing. Why cage fishing?
So there's a number of objectives which we want to achieve through the project we've got here in Homa Bay. One of the major ones is the transfer of skills. As we know, fish stocks in the lake have been dwindling and have come to a point where they've collapsed. Part of us restoring that and restoring the livelihoods of the people around the lake is through teaching people the skills to grow their own fish. If people can grow their own fish, they can get a livelihood out of it, and we can increase the fish production in Kenya.
You are training them and also giving them skills on how to do cage fishing. Do you have market for them? Because after maybe getting skills here, they will be interested of coming up with their own. And some of them, we've seen some of them in the lake, they have theirs. Do you have a market for them?
Yeah, so that's also a major drive of the company. Although our operations is based in Homa Bay, we've got our sales team is based throughout the country. And a large proportion of the employees are also on the sales team who are involved with exploring new markets. There's a big demand for fish in Kenya, and I feel that projects like this can help to reach these markets.
Could you just please say the metric tons do you produce per day?
So in terms of fish, we're producing tens of tons a day. And then monthly, it's in the hundreds of tons we're producing per month.
Cage fishing, do you think empowering these people with the knowledge, do you think it's going to change their lives?
Of course, and we've already seen major changes within the community. People are learning, they're gaining a lot of skills from the project, and then obviously also feeding their families, which is important.
Okay, well, I think you are saying, Ken, we have, you've just, there I told you there before, they are also producing fingerlings here, and they are being trained on how to do fingerlings that they can do on their own, maybe after leaving this place. These are I'll speak to the one in charge of training them when it comes to fingerlings production, the last one. How do you do fingerlings? How do you train them? How many people have you trained so far?
So at the moment we have anywhere between 100 employees in training. In terms of training them up as to how to grow fingerlings, we like them to train while they're on the ground. Give them practical skills out on the ponds, out on the lake. Make sure that they're learning by doing and applying some of the knowledge they might have gained either in university, if there's some graduates, or for the most part everybody from around this area. We train them by giving them the opportunity really to work with their hands and learn how to farm fish from eggs straight through to the point at which they're harvested.
So this is going to boost the economy of this area?
Yes, and we've already seen it. As a big employer in Homa Bay County, we're able to allow some of the people to feed their families. With their salaries go straight back into the economy in the surrounding community here within Sindo.
Well, thank you very much. Ken, you've just heard from the people here, the trainers, and also some of the beneficiaries who are being trained here. They are saying that the cage fishing is going to boost the economy of this area and also going to contribute to the realization of a blue economy. Remember, the president and also the people involved urged the fishermen not to engage themselves in illegal fishing using the illegal fishing gears. And also we've seen cases along the lake, the cases of sex for fish. You've heard from a woman there saying that currently they are dependent, they can depend on themselves, and soon they will start doing theirs as others. As I told you, some of them are currently enjoying the benefits of cage fishing in Lake Victoria. And remember, we'll be following them, we'll be talking to them in Lake Victoria so that we get more from them. And also here we'll be talking to the people training them just to tell us how do they train them and how so far how many people have graduated from this region. Back to you.
All right, Bernard, thank you very much. Fish farming, they're moving to cages instead of the traditional way of farming. Let's bring back this to studio right now. We're still waiting for one of our guests who's an economist, but we'll speak to the lawyer first. Setabawo Likanchori joins us to speak about the new money. And we'll just begin with, thank you very much for joining us. Let's begin with the legal regime creating the provision for having the new notes in the market right now.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me and for calling me to discuss this very exciting and, exciting issue. I think we've already seen a lot of excitement on both sides of the political divide, people saying this and the other. But to get to the legal side of it, I would say that legally and constitutionally, the new notes are long overdue.
Okay.
Yeah, you would recall that as soon as we pass the new constitution, there is a requirement in the new constitution that is that specifically requires CBK to issue notes that do not bear the image of anybody.
Okay.
That is Article 231 of the Constitution. And therefore, any note that was to be issued from September of 2010 would, by law, be required not to bear the image of an individual.
Okay.
And so legally, that is a position. The position is that CBK was required to do it. Secondly, in terms of the law, it is the constitutional and legal mandate of CBK to issue and withdraw currency. What we are calling demonetization of currency is basically the withdrawal of currency, that is notes and coins, from being legal tender.
Okay.
And in this particular context, we will let us not confuse the fact that it is only the 1,000 note that has been demonetized. The other currencies from 500 coming downwards are being phased out. And phasing out is not a new thing. You will recall that after 2002, we phased out the currencies that contain the image of the then retired President Moi. We did not demonetize them. Mm-hmm. We phased them out. And so also there is, I think because of perhaps cost implications and the need to maintain stability in the economy, CBK considered perhaps that if they withdrew or demonetized all the currency, there might not have been a smooth transition.
Okay.
And so what they have demonetized, that is to withdraw from 1st October from being legal tender, is only the 1,000 note.
Okay, let me stop you and draw the line for us. Demonetize and facing off. Because to me it's the same thing. Facing off, does it mean that we do it gradually? It could take the longest time. We'll still have them in circulation. But for what's happening to the 1,000 shillings, by 1st June, we don't want to see any of them in the market.
1st of October.
1st of October, sorry.
Yes. When it comes to phasing out, basically there is the old currency remains as legal tender.
Okay.
Yeah, that is, and then there is no date at which they are required to have been returned or to have been utilized. But when it comes to withdrawal, there is a specific date, and there is actually a specific legal requirement, because I've heard politicians talk about we should not have been given 4 months, we should have been given less time. But the law requires, I believe it is Section 22 of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, requires the central bank to give reasonable notice to the public of any withdrawal of a currency. And so the central bank would not have just woken up and say tomorrow or next week, this currency is no longer legal tender.
Okay.
So to answer your question, the difference between phasing out, which is what they have done for the other currency, and withdrawal essentially is that on a certain date, the one that has been withdrawn or demonetized ceases to be legal tender.
Okay.
So if you hold it after 1st of October,
it's useless to you.
It's useless to you. And if you try to trade in it, it is illegal. That is the other implication.
Okay.
So you can have it. I mean, you can have it the same way we have rupees in our houses, but you cannot use them.
Or the old dollar bills.
Or the old dollar bills.
Yes.
But if you use them and someone accepts them as legal tender, then it is illegal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Tell us the mischief behind the Constitution not putting the image of an individual in the national currency.
Well, I believe, the Constitution of Kenya, the new constitution that we have was enacted following wide consultation with particularly the public, the civil society, and other stakeholders. And at the time, of course, it was common for everyone who becomes president to put their image on the currency. And
even Kibaki tried with the coin, the 40-shilling coin.
40-shilling coin.
Yes.
And I want to believe that it is basically, it was a consideration of the public's view that we should not have everyone who gets to be president to have their image, because these are our servants. The president is not necessarily, is not the monarch like you have in the UK, who owns everything and all and sundry. And we are not subjects, of the president. The other mischief that I think perhaps it stops, we wanted to have a presidency that has been scaled down. Yeah, a presidency that is scaled down so that the president doesn't feel like he's a demigod. The president doesn't feel like, just because he appears in the currency, and the importance of money, particularly in this part of the world, someone will have a feeling that they are more important than they actually are, and so just to introduce that servant leadership and so on. There is a tendency, if you ask me, and this is just an opinion, basically it's not a legal opinion, but there is a tendency of despotic leaders to aggrandize, to sell themselves larger than they are, So one of the things that you do is when you want to scale down leaders to bring them back to their senses, is to stop them from having the power to scale themselves up. One of the ways that people do that is by portraying themselves in currencies. And
in
so
currency, all right. Is the same thing, would you argue, is the same thing with the fact that they name a lot of places and institutions after them?
After themselves. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing, okay.
It's the same thing. So again, of course there's a limit to which the office can be scaled down. But today you will not see a president just waking up and giving a directive by the side of the road that this place will be this and the other. Because again, of course, the constitution, the same constitution that we are talking about, requires the public to be involved in every public decision through public participation and so on.
Okay, let's go back to that image, because the other controversy that this is courting right now, and yesterday we had politicians speak about it, is the fact that one of the requirements is perhaps put iconic buildings or things that you can relate with in the new currency. And one of the things they've done is deliberately to pick the most iconic building in the country. And earlier you were telling me, if you pick ICC, you drop it in London somewhere, and then you're blindfolded and you're told, where are you? The blindfold is just taken off your eyes. You will say, but I'm in Kenya, because everyone will pretty much recognize KICC, right? So correct. That is causing controversy because the image in form of a statue of the former president, the founding president, is there. So it's likely to be rejected. And in fact, politicians are doing it already.
Now, let me begin by going to the first part of your question, which is what should the note depict?
Okay.
What should it depict? Before you go to what should it not? So the law, the Constitution provides that the coins can depict whatever symbolizes the country, whatever images that the country is known for. And therefore, we have seen this new currency depict wildlife. We have seen the new currency depict, agriculture. We have seen it depict the things that this country is known for. One of the things, and I was actually telling you earlier, and you have correctly pointed out, the most iconic building in Kenya, not just in Nairobi, in Kenya, is the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC. And KICC is so iconic that I think we tend to, the minute you see KICC, because there's no building like KICC in the world, and it's so conspicuous. And of course, it's a very old building, that the minute you see KICC, if the image of KICC was to be put in any city, any major city in the world, and you are shown that image, you will not look at any other building. You will just say, this is Nairobi. And I believe anybody who knows Nairobi associates Kenya with KICC. And the politicians who are opposing the depiction of the statue of the founding president in the new currency are not disputing the importance of KICC. So I believe CBK was right to put the image of KICC as a symbol of this country. The contentious issue in that, in the whole debate that surrounds the KICC is not KICC itself, it is the statue of the founding president, Jomo Kenyatta, which basically is at the front of KICC. And so the people who are saying that, they're trying to say, can you omit the statue? Now, the Constitution states that any new currency should not bear the portrait. And I think the words picked are very clear. It is the portrait of any individual. And so the question is, what is the definition of a portrait? Because when you're interpreting law, the first thing you look at is it clear? Is a word or is a wording used in that law clear before you go into interpretation? So the simple definition, dictionary definition or dictionary meaning of a portrait is a picture or is a photo or a drawing. And so therefore, for example, the images we have in the current currency, the currency that is now being withdrawn and phased out, that is a portrait. We have the portrait of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta on the face of this new old currency, if I can call it old currency. So that is a portrait. There's a statue of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, to the extent, in my view, to the extent that it is part of KICC. And you will note, Ken, that this statue is actually at the face, at the front.
Yes.
So it is basically part of KICC. And also something else. And so, okay, to be clear, and this is a point that I will make in any forum with confidence, there is no legal or constitutional violation by depicting the statue of the founding president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, in the new currency.
Okay.
Because it is not a portrait. That is not a portrait. It is a statue. And secondly, we should not also run away from our history or our heritage. KICC itself bears the name of the founding president. And so when you take the image of KICC and you incidentally, I would say, incidentally capture the statue. And this statue, if you look at it, because I've seen the images that have been shown in the media and in the newspapers of the new currency, it is not prominent. The statue, or the image, I would call it a statue, does not have a very prominent position in the currency.
Okay.
And also,
let's just play the pictures of the new currency so that we see what he's talking about. Yes, that's it. I think even if they phrase it, we're able to see when it comes next to where the portrait is. This is basically but there it is. Could you freeze it right there? Right, you can say, you're saying it's not so prominent.
It's not so prominent. Compare it now to the old currency, for example.
Yes.
Where you have the whole face up to, like, what do you call it?
It's bigger. It's actually behind you. It's clear. We can see. Yes,
you can see how prominent that picture is. And again, this is part of the building that is being portrayed.
Okay.
So if, for example, they had to Photoshop the image of the president, of the founding president, and put it next to KICC, then I would think they will have gone too far.
Okay.
But to the extent that it is part of the building,
someone would argue cleverly they've still managed to retain the image cleverly. You always have to find a way around. Would you say the same?
I would say perhaps they have, but again, the Central Bank of Kenya is an independent institution. Yeah. The Central Bank of Kenya is an independent institution, and I think we have seen this institution being very independent. So I would shy away myself from imagining that they were influenced from any quarter to retain this image. So I don't see myself, first of all, because there is no legal violation or constitutional violation, and because this is part of the building, and because, again, the founding president is part of our heritage and our history, in my view, there is really no harm and no prejudice. I think the argument that has been put forward by some of the politicians, particularly from the opposition side, that this should be withdrawn because it depicts the statue, that argument is pedantic, I would say.
Okay.
It's pedantic and petty.
It's a discussion they can't win.
It's a discussion they cannot win, first of all, and they know it, because one of the people who are saying is Senator Orengo, who knows very well that that does not violate the Constitution. And also something else that they should factor in. I mean, these are leaders who are elected, and they should know that there is a huge cost implication to withdrawing and reprinting currency. So are they telling us that we should get into another expedition that will cost us billions simply because there's a statue of the president? That does not violate the Constitution of Kenya.
Do you think the money has already been printed?
I believe it has already been printed.
And perhaps today we will begin to interact with this money.
I would, one of the things, Ken, that happens when you're printing new money, particularly when you're withdrawing old currency, is a very, huge exercise, and that is why it has not been done for 9 years. The new constitution, or the constitution that we have, is no longer new, but the constitution placed this requirement on CBK 9 years ago, that we need to have new money that complies with Article 231 of the Constitution. But that has not been done. One of the reasons that it has not been done is because of the cost of it. So I believe that it is something that they've already done. Otherwise, they will not have publicly announced it, because if they announce it, first of all, it might take time for it to be done if it has not been done. And secondly, the mischief that they were trying to address, which basically is to handle issues of fake currency, like the governor of central bank said, issues of corruption, issues of illicit and the black market. If they had announced it in advance and then they stay for long without effecting it, the crooks and the people who are dealing in the people who they were trying to target, or to the mischief that they were trying to forestall, would have caught up with them.
Okay.
So they had to do it, and usually in any country, you remember when the current Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, came in, he did the same thing. He withdrew, I think, the 1,000 rupee, and it was very sudden. It has always to be done in a very sudden way, in a very confidential, and it cannot be, it has always to be done confidentially and quickly, because otherwise the mischief that you're trying to address will be, will not be addressed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we begin mopping this money, we begin getting it off the market. So what happens right now? Every bank should not be issuing the old money right now, or should they continue? Because my assumption is they've already sent the new currency in circulation. So if a bank has 500 million shillings right now in its vault, do you go to central bank and exchange this money so that you begin circulating this other one? Or what happens effectively?
Let me say what happens in the law.
Okay.
What should happen in the law, and the act, that the enabling act, which is the CBK Act, is very clear. That central bank should have told us even yesterday, or on Madaraka Day, how to return or how to deal with this old currency. Because the law says the central bank, when it withdraws, it should stipulate that the old currency can be taken to a certain point. Of course, the Central Bank Act is fairly old, and basically it says that the central bank can stipulate that the money can be returned to central bank. That we know is not possible.
It's not possible, yes.
Yeah. So I would want to think that it's now an administrative thing by central bank to ensure that the money, like you have said, is in circulation with the banks. Just the same way that we go and we find today there is new money, the other time there is, it's an administrative thing.
Okay.
And you would I think, in the coming weeks and months, I personally, if I go to the bank, I will be very reluctant to take the old money.
Yeah, because you don't know where you're going to take it in the next few weeks.
Especially the 1,000. The other old money, of course, we know is going to stay.
Yeah.
But I will be reluctant, especially drawing closer to October 1st, to take old currency, because I don't know how, especially if you don't know how fast you're going to spend it, or whether the person you're going to give will accept it.
Will accept it. Yes.
You see? So it is in the interest of, I think, a smooth transition for CBK to ensure that new money is already in circulation.
You remember when the president launched the coins, was it last year? The new coins. I think it took me like 3 or 4 weeks before I interacted with the new coins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the coins are different because, again, how often do we interact with coins?
Okay.
Even on a daily basis, even the old coins. So, but the new notes, I should think, unless, of course, CBK have not organized themselves well, which I doubt, that money should already be with the banks.
Okay.
Yeah, you would, and I'm sure down there, at the micro level, it will soon be very difficult to give someone 1,000 bob.
Yeah.
And they take it.
I just think out of curiosity, I would really want to have the new one. But Central Bank of Kenya is set to have a press conference sometimes this morning or later in the afternoon. So perhaps what you're talking about, that framework, how do you return it, when do you begin returning it, how do you do it, and all that, and how much money you can return, because that's a huge dilemma that I want to talk about in the next hour, because someone said something profound yesterday, and this is the reason why I want to talk about this. Because banks have become so expensive, and even depositing money is so difficult in banks. If you have 1 million shillings, you have to declare it. You have to declare where you got it from if you're depositing it in cash, right? So people have become afraid to send their money to the bank, especially the cash. So you'll have 6 million, but because of the rules that are so tough, perhaps you don't want to declare how you got it. You sell a plot and you're paid in cash, so you have it in cash. So that's something that bothers a lot of people, apart from the fact that a lot of people suspect that there are people with gunny bags full of money back in their garden. Someone said nowadays they put them under the swimming pool. The service section, so you can't get it. That's something I really want to talk about. Okay. But I want to look ahead of this press conference, and in your mind now, what are the things that have not been explained, aside from what you had on Madaraka Day, legally? What are the things that have not been explained to Kenyans that they should know about this currency?
Well, I think, first of all, we cannot beat the central bank too hard for what they have not explained. You will recall that, okay, first of all, I've said that any withdrawal or demonetization of currency has to be done discreetly for obvious reasons, because many times it is meant to counter certain criminalities. And so if you don't do it discreetly, that whatever it is meant to counter will not be achieved. So that is number one reason why I will not be very hard on central bank for not being very forthright with information so far. Secondly, the forum that the governor used to announce this new currency was a limited forum. It was not his forum.
Really, I think it was in terms of space and time, right?
In terms of space and time.
But in terms of reach,
coverage,
because it was
exactly.
a national function.
It was, of course, in terms of coverage, it was, of course, a national, but it was limited in terms of, first of all, he had no control. Yeah, it was not his function. Yeah, and secondly, there was limited time. If I'm sure you have attended those, the public tends to get very jittery once the president has finished speaking. And you remember he spoke after the president had already.
Yes.
In fact, if you watch that thing, because I watched it twice, the governor insisted to finish his program. They were almost interrupting him at some point, and he insisted, and he said, "I have to talk." I don't know if you watched that part, because he knew he had important information that he had to convey. And I would want to think, because of that, perhaps he was not able to share everything that he would have wanted to share. So what I expect that perhaps in the next few days and weeks they will be sharing, first of all, is what we've already mentioned. When are we going to get the new currency in the banks? And I think, I would imagine that should be immediately.
Immediately, okay.
Okay, so that is number one. Number two is, the central bank cannot change the law in terms of, are you able to return whatever amount that you have and so on. So that will remain, because of course you can return, but as you return, you have to explain. Yeah, and Ken, and I know we'll get to that, but it's something that before it escapes my memory or my mind, I would tell you for a fact, there is no law-abiding Kenyan who has money stashed in their house.
None.
There is not even one single law-abiding Kenyan.
And stashed, you mean a lot of money?
A lot of money stashed in their house that they don't know what to do with it. There is no single law-abiding citizen who has money in their house just sitting. Money carries a lot of risks. Why would I want to have money in my house? When I can take it to the bank. There is no cost to explaining. If you have gotten money, even if it is 10 billion, and you have gotten paid by a legitimate process and means, you explain. And there is no criminality for making a lot of money anywhere in the world, let alone in Kenya. If you have made money legally, and there are people who are making money legally, a lot of it, but nobody is questioning them. But the only thing that is regulated is how, and the how you withdraw and how you the process that you have to declare and all this is not a Kenyan thing. It is an international requirement because there are laws governing money laundering, there are laws governing drugs and terrorism. So these requirements are universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to take a break just in a minute. But my question is, what we saw with the dollar the last time they went to the new generation dollars, right? If you go for foreign, you want to change the forex with the old dollar, it loses a little value, probably 5 shillings less. Does that happen with the currencies just being faced off, or ours will just remain stable? Just in a minute.
Yes. Now the old dollar was
the
phased
old,
out.
Yes, was phased out, but it's still in circulation.
It's still in circulation.
Yes.
So that is why it can still be accepted.
Yes, but at a lower
value.
Yes.
And the reason they accept it at a lower value is because of the risks attached to it.
Okay.
Because
someone might not accept it on the other side.
Yes, someone might not accept it, and also it is subject to counterfeiting.
Oh, counterfeiting.
Yes. So because of the risks, they take a little value out of it.
Okay.
But with the withdrawn currency, you cannot take it after 1st of October. Once
will not be in circulation.
They will
totally.
not be in circulation.
Yes.
Because the directive, central bank would have said, we are giving you up to 1st of October. After 1st of October, we can take it at Central Bank of Kenya. The law allows them to do that. You can return it or you can use it, but after 1st of October, if you return it to Central Bank, we can take it. But there is no such directive. The directive is after 1st of October, it ceases to be legal tender.
Completely.
Yeah. So basically, it
and the best example is the rupee, right?
The rupee.
There's a rupee. The highest value is how much? Was it 10 million?
The highest value at the time,
yes.
Initially, I believe it was 10,000.
10,000.
10,000,
okay.
Which is almost our 20,000 or less. But that one was withdrawn earlier.
Okay.
So by the
I've
time
seen a few in circulation with very high value of rupees.
Well, I'm not aware.
Yes.
But what was withdrawn was the 1,000.
Okay.
The 1,000.
Okay.
The 1,000.
Okay.
And the 500 at the time.
At the time, okay.
Rupees. Yeah, so that is what was withdrawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Zimbabwean 10, 50 million, are they still in circulation?
I think they went back to the dollar. I don't know how they're operating now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We still have a lot to discuss, and hopefully we'll have the economist in studio to discuss the next stage of this with us, because we need to know really what this portends to the market and how the market is likely to react to this. We'd also like to look at the political side of this. Especially the fact that the people who think it's targeting. I'd like to look at that, although I'm not having politicians in the studio, but I try to find a good way of asking those questions. So time now for a short break on NTV Today. We'll be right back. The conversation on the money continues after this.
Change nguo ndo ni babangu akachukua blanketi akanifunika nayo macho.
Tukilima anatuita hapo nyumbani, anatutoa suruali.
If these walls could speak, then they will tell of the crippling fear and the intense pain experienced by victims possibly violated here.
Tukisema anatukata na kipanga.
Mimi nilikuwa nakaa nikistuka kila wakati sababu amechukua kisu, anasema anakuja kutuua.
As of today, we have about 77 who are in custody.
The torture doesn't end upon their rescue.
What about the trauma of these kids?
Tell me like Pichako.
Professional mourners, Kenya Limited.
Kuko na funeral and they need mourners.
persons have until October 1, 2019 to exchange those notes, after which the older 1,000 shillings banknotes will cease to be legal tender. More details about this will be provided. Finally, let me thank all Kenyans for their patience with us, their contributions in the design of these new banknotes, and their support of the central bank as we seek to discharge our mandate.
So with those sentiments, the governor of the central bank set the ball rolling, and this includes the controversy that surrounds it. I'm still hoping that we can have Odhiambo Ramogi speak to us about this, but he's still stuck in traffic. It's a Monday and it's end of the month, so it's pay week. There's a lot of people with cars on the roads. There's a lot of money in this country. So we're still hoping he makes it. But let me talk to Setabao about the implication of this. And I really like to understand why this move that is in the Constitution has been related with possible targeting of individuals. Is it even possible? And as I ask this, at the back of my mind is, how much can someone deposit in the banks? How much money can you put in the bank during this period? We have about 4 months left, right?
Yes.
So in 4 months, how much can you, with the rules that are in place?
Okay, now let's answer the question, is anybody being targeted? Now, we started by saying there is a constitutional requirement that CBK must issue new currency.
Okay.
Okay? That requirement is not new. It's old. It's a 9-year-old requirement now. And so, in fact, CBK is playing catch-up. Okay?
Yes.
In my view, they should have done it, much earlier. And then secondly, I've said, and I think you would agree with me, Ken, that there is no law-abiding Kenyan who has stacks and stacks of money in their house. So if you hear anybody saying they're being targeted, they say that the guilty ones are always afraid. If you hear that someone is saying, I am being targeted, or so-and-so is being targeted, then there is a reason why they're saying that. They're basically confessing that they have money in their houses, or they have money stacked somewhere, illegally, or that they're engaging in criminal activities, which this new money is coming to address. And so I would say that, anybody who is talking about being targeted needs to tell us why they feel they're being targeted. Do they have stacks and stacks of money in their homes? Do they have illegal activities they're engaged in? Do they have, are they engaged in fake currencies, which is basically what this money is is coming to address? And do they want the CBK not to obey the Constitution, which requires them to produce new money? And on the issue of how much can you deposit, that does not change with the new money, with the old money. That remains the same. You can deposit whatever money that you have. The only thing that you'll be required to do is to declare the source. So there is no limitation as to how much you can deposit. If you have 10 billion in your account or under your bed,
yes,
and
you can explain.
Just get yourself a good lawyer first of all, and you can afford with that money, and then go to the bank and deposit it, and say where you've gotten it from. But and I say that tongue in cheek, of course, because you will have a case to answer if you have that kind of money in your house. But there is no limitation as to how much somebody, as long as they're able to explain the source of the money. If you belong to a certain religious persuasion that does not, allow you to bank with the conventional banks, you can go and say, my religion does not allow me to bank with these conventional banks, and that is why I've been keeping my savings in my home, and these savings, I have accrued them in this manner, and now because of the new currency, I would want to be able to get the new currency. And you'll be given, you don't have even to bank. You'll be given the new currency and you can take it back home.
Okay.
Yeah?
You just exchange.
You just exchange and go home.
New and old. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's this sentiments around people who are saying because of how credit is tight in this country and the rules and regulations for banking, they have resorted to having money, a lot of money in their houses. And right now, they will be victims because some people you're talking about, maybe your religion doesn't allow you to bank. Same people talking about it, they're going to be affected by this.
Well,
Just one of those explanations?
First of all, I don't know any religion that proscribes.
Prohibits you from banking.
I don't know any religion that proscribes or prohibits anybody from banking or putting their money in safe custody. There is no, we all deal with banks, and I think banks have really gone down all the way to the very small, business person, the peasant farmer. There is really nothing technical about banking in Kenya. It's been demystified. It has been made very easy. Banks are as close to you as you want them to be. The requirements that you declare are requirements that are they are not just idle requirements. They are requirements that are meant to serve a certain objective because of international concerns about money laundering, international concerns about terrorism. And I will tell you, if we didn't have those requirements of declaring the source of our wealth, this country would be a very unsafe place, for example, with terrorism. We already saw that someone who was able to deal with, I don't know how many, 1 million shillings a day, who was able to sponsor an attack on this country, with the Dusit attack. And so all these things are not just put there so that they can target so-and-so or target so-and-so. There is no one who will target you if you can explain where your money is from. Okay. There is no legal prohibition to making money in Kenya or anywhere in the world. Yeah, the dream of everybody is to make as much money as possible, legally or within legal confines. And so the only thing is you need to explain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aside from that, that's the formal process that we expect this money to get back to the system, and then you get the new money. Yesterday, Musalia Mudavadi said something that to me makes a lot of sense, because at this particular time, if you cannot explain, let's deal with people who cannot explain. There'll be a huge rush. One, to get this money to the client's account. I don't know how they can get it to your accounts, to the client's account. Secondly, purchasing property.
Yes.
Just to ensure you get this money off the system.
Yes.
Now, this is conduit for money laundering. And then secondly, it means that we will get a lot of money back in circulation. Is that something you're thinking about?
That is something that will happen.
Yes.
And that is a good thing, Ken. That's a good thing. I don't know why we are talking about it in negative terms. There has been concern. And I think all Kenyans from all walks of life will tell you they have been feeling a cash crunch in the system. People use in common parlance, they will say, "Hakuna pesa." There's no money. The question is, where is this money? And that is because of that, universal thing in Kenya right now. People, experiencing a cash crunch, with a shortage of cash. Despite of what you're doing, if you find someone who 10 years ago was doing less but was making more, you find today you're doing double but you're making less. It's not that people are not working, people are not trading and all this, but there is less money in circulation. That has led to the belief, and I think it's a valid belief, that there are people hoarding money in their homes and in their houses and in go downs and all manner of places. People are getting innovative ways of hiding money and of storing money, because now it's no longer even a question of hiding, it's a question of storing, because it gets to a point where the amount of money you're keeping, you require storage. Safe storage for it. So you'll hear Kenyans talking about all manner of ways that people are doing that. And this this incentive or this new development, I should say, by Central Bank of Kenya, in my view, is a very good development, because we want that money to go back in circulation. And that is why one of the reasons that Central Bank has given adequate time.
4 months.
Is 4 months.
Yes.
Is so that we don't have a situation where money is wasted and money doesn't go back to the economy and money becomes useless. People need to be given time so that if they want to go and spend it, they spend it. We get it back. Producing money is very expensive. Ken, producing money is very expensive. So you don't want a situation where money becomes worthless and useless. You want it back so that the economy, continues to run. Central Bank of Kenya, one of the functions it has, and the primary function, is to control monetary policies and to ensure the stability of currency and all these other things. And one of, if you bring back money in the economy, and I'll tell you, Ken, watch out for this. In the next few months, you will see a little flexibility even with the way people are spending. In the next few months, you will see that the way people, will go back to, I remember under President Kibaki, the economy grew so fast from 2002 to 2007 for many Kenyans. President Kibaki is the only one who produced billionaires, Kenyan billionaires from zero, because they were able to do genuine business. We were building roads, everything was happening. And those people will go back, you'll go, if you make 100 million today, you'll go and buy land, you'll go and buy a house, you'll go and buy a car, you'll go and spend money in a bar, whatever it is, you'll be spending money, and that money will go to someone else. And that is the essence of an economy. In European countries and in Western countries, it gets to a place where they encourage people to spend. They actually go out there, the government goes out there and tells you, stop saving.
Okay.
Stop saving, spend. Spend the money, because that is how the economy is run. Economy is run by money circulating.
Okay.
And one of the things you should also watch out for the value of the dollar in the next few months, in the next few weeks. I suspect and I predict that we will see the dollar gaining value against the shilling.
So you're saying we will go past 100 shillings?
We'll go past 100.
Shillings.
Perhaps we'll even go to 120. It's just my prediction. I'm not an economist and I'm not a prophet.
Okay.
But because, and this is one of the things that I thought central bank should do. Central bank should have put a moratorium and a freeze on foreign
use of foreign currency?
No, on forex bureaus.
Forex bureau, okay.
For this period.
Because of the conversion.
Yes.
Because of the conversion. I'd like to talk about that finally, because that's about the last question that I want to talk about. Are we going to see a market where we'll have less major currencies like the dollar, the euro, and the pound? Are we likely to see that? But I'd like to talk about that. But first, let's go to Mombasa and speak to Kevin Mutai. Kevin, good morning from Nairobi. And we understand that this morning there's a lot of sentiments around land grabbing and illegal annexation of land. Tell us about it.
Well, good morning to you, Ken. We are live from Kwale County in Diani, and indeed it is a subject that has been going on across the coastal counties. Remember, we've been experiencing the same issue in Kilifi County, and today we are here in Kwale, where a land dispute is looming between a hotelier and over 1,000 families. Remember, this property in contention is of over 150 acres, and this comes after the hotelier managed to get a court order, and now he threatened to evict these families whom they have resisted, and they're saying they will continue resisting because they are the rightful owners of these properties. According to my understanding is that the Leisure Lodges Limited is claiming ownership of the 187 acre piece of land, and here is fighting with over 1,000 families here in the region. I'll quickly like to engage a resident here to tell us or to give us his sentiments about this entire issue, and I understand they are continuing to gather, and we will be covering before we relocate to that particular place where the residents are currently gathering. Let me just quickly engage the residents to give us a brief of what we're expecting today. Kwanza kabisa anza kwa majina, waitwa nani, alafu tueleze mbona leo mmekusanyika hapa.
Kwa majina naitwa Sheikh Hamisi Mwamwindi. Tuko hapa leo kwa sababu ya uamuzi ulioamuliwa wiki zilizopita na mahakama ya Mombasa. Hatukubaliana nao na tuwapinga uamuzi huo, kwa sababu ni kama ambao wao walitoa uamuzi ambao hawajui historia ya hapa, wala hawajui walisikiza upande mmoja. Ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba shamba hili wananchi si maskota wala hawakuvamia. Shamba hili ni kati ya makubaliano ya mabadilishano. Kampuni ya Leisure Lodge, yule mwanzilishi wa kampuni ya Leisure Lodge ambaye alikuwa akiitwa Dr. Master, yeye ndiye aliomba kwa sisi kwamba tunataka hii shamba lenu niweze kutengeneza golf course, na nyinyi mtawabadilisha hii shamba yangu, na tukakubaliana. Alikuwa 1993 tukakubaliana tena, hatukubaliana.
Kwanza kwa kifupi, kwanza hapa tunaangazia kwamba swala la ardhi limekuwa donda sugu hasa katika maeneo haya ya pwani, na tukio la leo, iwapo ataweza kufuatilia hiyo mahakama, amri ya mahakama kuweza kuondoa katika sehemu hii ardhi, na nafahamishwa kwamba zaidi ya familia 1000 zitaathirika kutokana na swala hilo. Je, maoni yako ni yapi kuhusiana na tukio hilo?
Kusema kweli, Kama itakuwa hivyo basi kuondolewa famili hizi karibu watu 700, hii italeta shida kubwa katika area hii na italeta usalama pia utazorota, kwa sababu hii ni sehemu ambayo tumeitegemea kwa utalii, na hata katika hiyo kampuni ambayo inataka kufanya jambo hilo, wao pia wanashughulika na mambo ya utalii, wako na hoteli ya kitalii, na tuwaomba mambo haya yaende kwa usawa, lakini lao haitakwenda hivyo, basi hii sehemu hii tusahau usalama.
Well, Ken, that is one of the residents, and I don't know if you can see all the way to that stretch. That is the main road connecting Kwale to Mombasa County, and it stretches all the way down to the beach, and it's a total of 197 acres, and that particular hotelier is claiming ownership of this particular property. We are following up because I understand residents and those who claim that they had the rightful owners of this particular property will be gathering today and will be deciding on a way forward after the decision of the court to grant the orders that particular businessman to evict them from the property. Ken, we will be following up on this particular issue and we will be updating our viewers in our subsequent bulletins.
All right, Kevin Mutai, thank you very much covering that land dispute in Kwale, and we'll definitely have a story at the end of the day on what's happening. He's headed to where the people who claim that land are converging. He'll have sentiments from them later on. All right, let's end the conversation on money right here in studio. I'm still with Advocate Kanchori here, and just to supplementary question, then I can let you go. The fact that we are likely to see a lot of move to these forex bureaus and banks to look for dollars, euros, and pounds, because that's where to hide this currency. If you don't want to take it to the bank, you can basically change. You can go with $1 million, $2 million and have your money back. And secondly, as you wind up, do you think this is the next frontier for President Uhuru Kenyatta in fighting corruption? Because all these people with money stashed home are likely to be smoked out. Yes.
Now, the first question is on the issue of whether the foreign currency will be affected. You know, money is a commodity, Ken. Money is like any other commodity. It is a merchandise. And like every other commodity, it responds to the universal laws of supply and demand. And so right now, because we expect, and I think reasonably so, that there will be too much supply of the money that is being withdrawn, the 1,000 shilling notes. The supply will be up, and there will be a demand of hard currency, the dollar, the pounds, and so on. It is my expectation, and I think the expectation of many people, that there will a surge will be seen, or an increase in the value of the dollar and these other hard currencies against the shilling might be witnessed in the next few weeks, simply because of the issue of supply and demand, and that is likely to be reversed soon after. Because if you take dollars, if you take $1 million or $100 million and you take it and keep it, you cannot use it. Still, you'll have to come back and return it. So I expect that whatever increase in value of the dollar that will be witnessed after 1st of October, we will also begin to see when the dollars are being returned, the value of the dollar will again go down slightly. On the question of and I want to repeat there and say, if the governor of Central Bank is really serious about this, they should rein in on the forex bureaus at this point. They should rein in on forex bureaus. The banks can be left to deal with foreign currency as normal, but the forex bureaus, we know they operate in a loose manner. And that loose manner is what will be exploited by some of the people who are holding illegal money. Let the money be spent in other ways, but it is not very good for our economy if we have to exchange it for foreign currency. On the question of the president and the war on corruption, of course, that is no longer an issue that everybody knows how hard the president is trying to slaughter this dragon called corruption. And I think whatever you think of it, whatever you say of it, give it to the president. Of all the presidents we have had since his very own father, the founding president, to President Kibaki, all of them, there is no president who has shown, goodwill and seriousness in fighting corruption as the President Uhuru Kenyatta has. And he's doing it in a very difficult environment.
Okay.
Because as it were, he looks to be shaking his own boat, because it is perceived that the war on corruption is very close to his own house in terms of the political house.
Okay.
Yeah, and you would see every time we talk about corruption, people say the deputy president is being targeted. Now we are talking about new currency, the deputy president is being targeted. And I think if somebody is to advise the deputy president, well, I will tell him to rein in on his surrogates, because they portray him in bad light, I think.
Okay.
Because if every time anything negative is mentioned, because he never says, the deputy president hardly says, I'm the one being targeted. But his proxies and surrogates are the ones who come out, even in his presence, to say that we are the ones who are being targeted. And he never contradicts them. And he never contradicts them. Yeah. I think that is a wrong approach and strategy by the deputy president. Because, these people perhaps have an interest in talking. And if someone is getting something from someone, they have to appear to be working and to be serving the interest of their master. But at times, because, of the way they do it, then they do the opposite. They actually injure the interest of their master.
Okay.
And in this case, I think they're injuring it. Even when you hear them saying that this money should have come out yesterday, I think they're thinking of themselves. Really, they want this money to, they know that if this money was to come out immediately, they will probably be the first beneficiaries, because the old money will go to them quickly.
Okay.
So he should rein in on them.
All right. Thank you very much, Setabao Ole Kanchori and Avruke, for speaking to us and shedding light in this. I understand it much more than I did when we began, and gladly so, because the Central Bank of Kenya is having a press conference on this. We don't know what time, but if they have it, they'll definitely be explaining a lot more, and including what he has told us this morning. All right, let's take you back to that documentary yesterday that a lot of you reacted on and are still talking about. In the last 2 weeks alone, there has been a stream of reports about suicide. Now, these stories are sadly just a small representation of a bigger scourge afflicting the country. Now, the World Health Organization estimates that 7,000 Kenyans attempt to take their lives every year. Many of them, unfortunately, succeed. Sheila Sendeo delves into this very difficult subject.
Mfanyikazi ambaye ni matron wa shule hii amejinyonga. Alikuwa amejinyonga na kama shuka hivi.
Naonanga huyu kijana na boda wanga anakuja asubuhi, wengine usiku, anakuja nalala. Lakini leo tumempata kama amejang.
Every year, 7,000 people in the country find themselves in this dungeon, in the cusp of light and shadow, where death is a cradle. They have their pain and their reasons, but their footprints are marked with so much devastation, so many questions.
One evening in May, a young boy was found hanging inside the roof of his grandmother's house. He was only 13 years old, but his action carried an unexpected sting. It was a brutal revelation to his loved ones of just how troubled he was on the inside, despite the face he put out to the world. He was lost, trying to find peace from an ordeal that tormented him. And now his loved ones have to start on a journey towards finding theirs.
On the threshold of a ghost of a home lies the unhallowed ground where the remains of a battered and broken 13-year-old Clinton Mwangi lies. Death tore through this home and ruined it. Its cruel footprint is all that's left.
Sasa hii mimi nasikia baya sana, hata kukura siwezi. Kipo yananifuata, sijui ni kwa nini, sijui nakosea Mungu nini, lakini najaribu tu kuomba. Sababu sasa naenda kwa watoto. Sisi wote na yeye huyu mtoto, sisi saa hii ni kama wagonjwa. Najaribu Mungu anipatie nguvu, sababu mimi sisikii kama ninajiweza.
Clinton, one evening after school, decided to put an end to his childhood shame.
Kuingia ndani kuigiza nguo yake ile alikuwa analalia, juu kulikuwa na mvua. Kuigiza ndio niliona mtu ako kwa nyumba juu, anajihangi huko juu. Niliacha kupiga duru na nikakata hiyo kamba nikamuralisha nione kama ako. Nikasikia ako baridi. Sasa nikaendelea na duru mpaka polisi wakakuja.
The final chapters of Clinton Mwangi's short life story were written here, in this make-do home on the fringes of Nairobi's Huruma estate, where he lived with his grandmother.
Alikanyanga hapa, akajanga hapa. Hapa.
And these are the secrets of the young lost boy. A story penned with the ink of affliction, right until the last moments he stepped into the dark.
Walikuwa wanafanya hide and seek. Sasa wale walikuwa wanacheza na yeye, walisi ndio walienda wapi? Kumbe ameshikwa nayo mtu amepeleka kwa nyumba yake na mtolea kisu. Hawezi sema hata nduru. Akafanywa ile chenye alikuwa anafanyiwa. Kutoka siku hiyo chichi ndio alianza kuchange.
Huyu mtoto alikuwa analipiwa. Alitibiwa na akapona. Sasa hii alikuwa mzuri kabisa. Lakini sijui mafikiro yake.
Clinton was full of life and promise. But the more he struggled with his thoughts, struggled to grip at his fading innocence and childhood, he became more withdrawn and less his energetic self. He was fading away.
Nikipiga hapo nje, anakuja ananiambia niwekee yangu, niende. Nataka kwenda kulala. Anaenda kulala. Mimi namuuliza, "Kwa nini unawasha taa hapa?" Anaenda kukulia kwa giza. Hapana, mimi nataka kulala. Siku hizi mimi shosho nataka kuwa nikilala saa 3. Sitaki kuona TV. Sasa hiyo ndio kitu niliona inaseji ati anaenda kulala, analala saa 3 na ni mtu alikuwa anaangalia TV analala saa ingine saa 4.
The quiet terror of his ordeal never really passed. It tugged and pulled at him until he couldn't hold anymore.
Najaribu Mungu anipatie nguvu, sababu mimi sisikii kama ninajiweza saa hii. Sababu nilikuwa nasikiliwa na hiyo mtoto sana, nikibiduka naona yeye, lakini saa hii sina raha hata.
But he isn't the only one isolated in his own pitch darkness. Small folds of people culled from different homes around Ngano village in Nyahururu gather in a compound cloaked in a gloom that mirrors the day's weather. Gerald Mwangi's lifeless body was found swinging from outside his home in Kino. He was 29 years old. His family now living out the pain of the consuming, self-directed scorn of a man shimmering with energy, talent, and potential.
Na unaendeleaje sasa?
Yerodo uko na masuruali mingi. Sio ingie huko ndani kajiangalilia mwenyewe.
Sio masuruali.
Na masuruali. Ile kitu unauliza wewe iko masuruali mingi.
Masuruali.
Gerald was an actor and a comedian. Those who knew him say he was always full of life, more of the sun than the shade. But for a man who made a living off making people laughed away his last moments and his cry for help. His suicide note was hardly a chronicle of his scathing self-loath, self-criticism, and a growing desperation that his friends and family only found out about later. They still struggle to reconcile his inner and outer life.
Hiyo posti kwanza kumpigia simu kwa mteja. So ni msali alikuwa anapenda jokes sana. So mimi kwa upande wangu nilikuwa naona labda huyu jamaa anaweza kuwa na joke, lakini after one day kesho yake nikajua hii kitu inakuwa hii kitu iko serious. Shoot ilivyoisha siku ya mwisho aliniambia alikuwa na problems za nyumbani hizi. Ananiambia Bullet niko na problems sijui hivi na hivi but ile kitu ilifanya akafanya kitu kama nadhani hakushare ile kitu ilikuwa inamsumbua kwa roho yake, but angeshare na vijana kama sisi at least kuna venye tungesaidiana. Hiyo shuka yake ambayo anatumia ya red ndo alikata. Nasikia alitumia hiyo shuka yake. Inasemekana hiyo shuka hata kwa mocha alikuwa hajatolewa hiyo shuka.
Suicide is among the top 20 leading causes of death globally. It is the second leading cause of death for youth aged between 15 to 29 years. For those left behind, it's like traveling on a road with no signs. Like detectives, they're always trying to find clues, uncover the secrets that their loved ones took to their graves. Mildred Nekesa and husband George Ndiema were expecting their 7th child, but a few days to her due date, he killed himself. He left her no explanation.
Hatukuwa na shida yoyote wakati ambapo aliniacha. Wakati ambapo kuna wenzangu walikuja jioni ya kwamba wanahitaji mboga. Na nikawaomba waende tu shambani wachune wenyewe. Lakini mzee wangu akakataa, akasema hapana. Wazindikishe. Akabaki nyumbani akiwa amefungua mifugo yake anachunga ng'ombe. Tukatoka shambani, kufika pale uwanjani hakukuwa na neno, bali moyo ukakataa kuja nyumbani. Nikaona wacha nisindikisha hao wenzangu mpaka kwa barabara. Nikaona watu wanashughulika kukimbia. Nikawauliza mnakimbia nini? Kuna mtoto alinijibu, wewe hujui kwamba baba amejinyonga? Nilimpata kwa mti karibu na boma, kwa miti ananing'inia.
He was a prisoner of his affliction, but it was a well-kept secret.
Hakuonyesha anaenda kujinyonga, bali alikuwa ananena tu. Nikimuuliza mbona wewe unanena maneno mazito umeletea familia shida? Anasema hapana. Mimi mwenyewe nimejua tu, lakini mimi ndio mbaya. Karatasi tuliopata ni yenye alikufa nayo akiwa ameandika madeni yake. Hiyo ni kije karatasi alilisti watu wenye wako na madeni zake zote na akaweka kwa mfuko wa kifua hapa hivi. Harakati maaskari walikuja kumtoa kwa kamba kwenda naye, ndio walipata hiyo karatasi. Wakati ambapo mume wangu alikufa, niliupokea kwa uchungu. Niliupokea kwa uchungu sana na kwa mshtuko na mshangao. Lakini baadaye nikaona yote kwa Mungu yanawezekana.
Ken Mijungu tried 3 times to take his own life, but between the pit of emptiness and the summit of hopelessness was his salvation. This is a journey through his darkness, how he found the light, and how he's trying to cast that light upon the paths of others still ensnared in the shadows.
It is said life is short. Darkness is never far away. A poignant phrase that we live in the flicker. Ken Mijungu knows this all too well. He was once caught in the thick paste of depression, trapped in his own dark thoughts that started off as a trickle, then as a hemorrhage.
It started out very subtle. So it started out as more or less of a daily drinking habit, and before long it became pretty much every day. It went south quickly after that. There are a couple of things that transpired during my childhood that I think left this hole that I was trying to fill with all these substances. My mom left us very early. She left for the States. My sister and I were really young. The whole idea was for her to go and find greener pastures, and would join her. Sadly, that never really worked out. So it led to a lot of frustration on my part. While she was away, my dad passed away. Then my uncle passed away after that. Then my grandfather, who was my last remaining male model, left for the States. He had some health issues that needed to be taken care of in the States. So I think I began to feel like people are always leaving. I also uncovered a memory from childhood. I was inappropriately touched by somebody who was a very close friend or relative of the family. So there's these small things that were never addressed. And I think as I grew up and as I began to discover who I was, I realized that there's stuff that I feel extremely uncomfortable about.
Racked by a deep pain inside, a pain unblunted by the passage of time, he one day packed up and traveled to the coast. He didn't intend to come back.
I was extremely depressed when I left. I wasn't logical. It wasn't a logical decision. So the decision to leave and not tell anyone, I mean, was an extremely selfish one. But it didn't seem that way to me at the time. I always find it a bit difficult to take my mind there. I think that's probably been the most difficult thing I've experienced in my life. I wrote an extremely detailed email, and I addressed everyone. I addressed my family, and I told them I'm sorry for being so selfish. I even thought maybe how are they going to feel, but I didn't care. I was like, this is something I have to do. So sorry guys, bye bye.
Banished to this remote-seeming outpost, death held out as a stark allure. The dark thoughts in his shuttered-down universe were ruthless in their sniping insistence.
I remember thinking to myself, all these ridiculous decisions I had made had brought me to the place where I was an addict now. On realizing how far I had fallen, I realized or decided it wasn't worth it, and I decided I was going to take my life. And the psychiatrist diagnosed me as a manic depressive, so he had given me a lot of medication. I had carried the medication with me to the coast, and I decided to overdose on everything. I drank all day, and then towards the evening, I took all the tablets I had. There must have been more than 60. And I flushed them down and went and lay on my bed and waited to go wherever it is people go. So the following morning I wake up, I'd fallen sick in the night and threw up. And I remember looking at those tablets on the floor with disappointment because most of them were all intact. And I was like, okay, fine. It just means we need another plan. So I went to the back balcony. That's where they have clothing lines. I untied it and rigged it up on one of those beams. So went about the day drinking as usual. That evening, again, got very drunk. I used one of those bedside lamp stands to get to the kamba. I put it around my neck and I jumped. I was really, really wasted. Again, I wake up the following morning, but this time I had a shooting pain on my back. I think when I jumped off the stool, I think I landed back on it after the rope cut. So now I was really frustrated and I was starting to feel angry even. I'm like, no, it's my life. I want to take it and no one is going to stop me from doing so. During this very lengthy stay in Mombasa, I'd made friends with a few people, including a certain beach boy who was extremely resourceful. So I called him and I asked him, I need access to a gun. A couple of hours later, he called me and told me, yeah, I got something. It's going to cost you X amount. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the last time I'll ever be able to do something like this. I had accepted that this was going to work. As I was drinking, my phone rings. And I remember looking at it and it was my grandma. And she goes to tell me, whatever it is you're thinking about, please don't do it. Whatever problem you're going through, we can sort it out. And she said, please don't make me lose another son. So I burst out crying. And we cried on the phone for a while. And finally I opened up and just told her all the rubbish things I had done. And she was completely unmoved. She was like, we can sort it out.
He spent the next 115 days in rehab, staving off the despair, doing battle with the usual furies. But the terrors of the far-off past were never really that far.
Then on one very random day, I think we're having ugali and skuma or something. And I was like, a piece of meat would be great with this. And so I left the house to go to a shopping center not far from here. And genuinely, my intention was to go pick up some meat for dinner. And someone shouted my name. And I looked back and it's someone I hadn't seen for a long time. It's like, hey, where have you been? It's like, oh no, I've been trying to get my life back in order. It's like, that's amazing, man. Kuja nikubaye moja juu ya story. So I've tried thinking about that day repeatedly. I have no idea why I even agreed to step anywhere near a bar. Many hours later, I staggered through that door and Eva burst into tears. She was like, Yani, it's taken so much to get you clean. I can't believe you let it go that easily. So now the guilt checked in and I continued drinking. But Eva one day called my people and they were like, this guy is going to die in the house drinking. So if there's something you want to do, please come through. So my aunties came through and they told me, dude, listen, here's how it is. No one can afford you to take you to rehab every time you want to go to rehab. So you're going to go again, but we suggest you really try harder this time.
Having come to terms with life's failings as well as his own, he resolved to give himself another chance. Slowly, he re-inhabited his life, coaxing himself along, and soon he found a way to live without getting bogged down in the shadows. Drawn to the glimpses of light and holding fast to the long perspective.
When I held my daughter for the first time, I made a promise to her that I'd always take care of her and that I was going to do whatever it took. Say hello to everyone.
Hello.
Even after I left rehab the second time, I always had suicidal thoughts. They would come every once in a while. You never knew when they were going to. You never knew when they were going to come. If you find having a perfectly fine day, at some point you find yourself thinking, maybe I should just end my life. I realized that at one point I'd lost all hope, and now I'm here. Amazing family of mine. No matter how crazy it has gotten. If you believe that there is going to be a better day, you're willing to work. It's going to be hard work. It's going to take a better day. When you're trying to think about tomorrow, it's too painful to think about. You're trying to think about consequences of things that you've done. Too painful to think about. Very quickly, taking your life seems like a very easy life. Somebody who's talking about it and not people joking about it, because it's such a dark, I can't really verbalize to be able to